Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I am Auron MacIntyre. Before we get started today, I just want to remind you that one of the ways we keep things going on around here is, of course, uh, subscriptions to Blaze TV. If you would like to go ahead and support what we're doing here, along with getting all the great behind the scenes content from your favorite hosts, you need to head over to blazetv.com/Auron and subscribe today to get $20 off. That's blazetv.com/Auron and use the promo code Auron to subscribe today and get $20 off your yearly subscription. Hey guys, how's it going? I have a feeling that you have heard about the Super Bowl. It's everywhere. The halftime show, the controversies, the politics. We will get into that. We're also going to talk about the Democrats and the way that they have approached their anti-white agenda, announcing it out loud, while the Republicans are basically running scared because Donald Trump posted something on social media. Once again, of course, the GOP is full of spineless traitors, and the Democrats continue to stay on message all the time. So let's dive in, I guess, to the first story. Last week, Donald Trump had a video appear on his feed on Truth Social. I think he reposted at some point. This is an old video. It's been around for, I think, several months, maybe even a year at this point. It's one of those boomer edits where they cut in a bunch of the big floating heads, as you can see here from the video on the screen. And it's, I've always found these things not funny at all. I don't get it, but man, old people love this on social media. They can't get enough of it. They share it everywhere. Now, this one had multiple different members of the Democratic Party as animals, but as you can see at the top, it had the Obamas. And man, the Obamas are monkeys in this scenario. I'll go ahead and play you the video here first, and we'll react here in a moment. So as you can see here, it's just a lot of people. This is someone saying boomer slop. Yeah, pretty much. It's a lot of different Democrats, in pictures, being having their heads imposed over different animals. In this scenario, obviously, you have multiple Democrats who aren't black being put on monkeys, and you have multiple black Democrats being put on other animals. Sometimes they're a tortoise. Sometimes, it's Joe Biden who's a monkey. But yes, the Obamas were placed on, their heads are placed on the bodies of monkeys. This is dumb, obviously. Like, it's very stupid. I'm not sure who finds it funny. I guess Donald Trump, maybe. I don't know. Later on, Trump said that ultimately he didn't put it on his social media account, that an intern did. I don't believe that for a moment. Now, Donald Trump did come out and say that he's not firing the intern who put the video out. A lot of people demanding that they fire whoever decided to put this up. I'm pretty sure he can't fire the intern because it's kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi. I can't fire him because he is me. But ultimately, the point is that this video, while dumb and not very funny, is obviously deeply inoffensive. Other than if you're desperately hoping to try to make some connection between the Obamas being, having their heads on a jungle animal and racism. Again, you can see, we'll just play a little bit more of the video.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps too.
Anyway, I really don't understand how this is entertaining for a lot of people, but ultimately you can see that there's nothing particular about the races involved. Once again, yes, the stereotype of black people being monkeys is an old racist stereotype. However, there are multiple black people on other animals, turtles, and I guess, but like a lemur or something, or that is a monkey. What do you call it? The prairie cat thing. I can't remember. Meerkat. That's it. You see him on these other animals, and then you see, Joe Biden as a monkey, even though he's not black. So clearly, the whoever made this video, and Trump didn't make the video, everyone acknowledges that. Whoever made this video wasn't trying to be racist. It was clearly spreading just jungle animals and different Democrats on those animals. So the video itself is not even actually racist. But on top of that, the incredible outcry from not just Democrats, like, they're going to use any excuse to get angry at Donald Trump. And it's not even just, anti-Trump Republicans. You expect kind of the Bill Kristol's, if he even qualifies as a Republican anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. All the real angry, aggressive, never Trump guys. You can expect them to look for any ultimate way, ultimately any way to uh, bag on Trump, denounce Trump, find some way to create controversy, get other Republicans to denounce Trump. You understand why the Democrats and the ever Trump Republicans would do this. But it wasn't this just them either. We had lots of people, Republican commentators, politicians saying, we have to denounce this. We have to denounce this. This is awful. Just absolutely spineless. Like, obviously, you don't have to denounce this at all. It doesn't need to be a media cycle. You don't need to give it any air. It disappears literally in an hour or two off of the media after MSNBC has done its little outrage segment, unless they can get a lot of Republicans to react to it. They can get some kind of momentum. Oh, look, even the Republicans are turning on Donald Trump. Even the Republicans are outraged. Even the Republicans are calling it racist. That's what they absolutely needed. And that's what they got, because the Republicans are stupid and spineless. They're cowards. They're traitors. They're losers. And they do whatever the media tells them to. Like, they have no real understanding of a political agenda. They're not actually fighting for a cause. These people are ultimately just kind of like the B team of the political elite that are assigned to the hinterlands to rule over the chuds, to rule over the, stupid white middle Americans or something. They have no actual goals, no real understanding of power, no strategy, like none of it. It's embarrassing to watch these people fall over themselves, like they're somehow going to be ingratiated into the good graces of the New York Times or the CNN if they just come out and denounce Donald Trump in this way. I mean, this isn't a huge story. Like, I probably wouldn't even have talked about this because it's so dumb and so frivolous. Like, okay, Republicans are cowards and stupid, and if you call them racist, they'll do whatever you want. We've talked about that before. It's true, it's tragic, but like, we've covered that ground, so there's no reason to beat it to death. However, I want to contrast that today, because this is the big point, okay? The big point is the way the Republicans reacted to this, as opposed to what the Democrats were doing just a few days later. So while the Republicans are denouncing Donald Trump as an evil racist, and this video is so offensive, and we absolutely have to denounce it, because ultimately, if we don't fight this, then people will think that we're big meanie heads who don't like black people or something, and then all the things they said about us will be true. Yeah, the Republicans do this stuff, of course. But what do the Democrats do when something much worse happens, far worse happens? How do they treat it? Well, here is a state representative in Texas. His name is Gene Wu. He's the District 137 Texas House of State Representatives. That's his district. And he said this in a recent interview.
Tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. Because we are the majority in this country now. We have the ability to take over this country and to do what is needed for everyone and to make things fair. But the problem is our communities are divided. They're completely divided.
So this video is amazing for all kinds of reasons. We'll break them down one by one. So the first thing that's amazing here is Gene Wu is an immigrant. He was not born in the United States, as far as I understand. So he is here as a guest. He was supposed to take a pledge of loyalty to the United States. He was supposed to be somebody who was saying he had nothing but good intentions, of good moral character when he became an American, in theory. But he's not, because he's a paperwork American, right? He doesn't believe in America. He hates America. He hates the people who are in America, the people who made America, the people who founded America. So this is why the propositional nation is a joke. The idea that we can just have somebody in and they'll raise their hand and they'll adopt our values. And no, he walks in the door. He lies. He tells a lie. I don't actually care about this country. I hate this country, but I sure would like to make money. I sure would like to have the benefits of living in a country built by the people I hate. So I'm going to lie about them. And I'm going to lie to them and say, oh no, I love the country and I want to become a part of it. And boom, the propositional nation is over. It doesn't work anymore. All you have to do is lie. That's it. That's all you have to do is just lie. And it breaks the propositional nation. I promise I believe in the proposition. No, really, I really do believe in the proposition. Oh, I'm in the country. Haha, turns out I don't. You suck. I'm going to take over your country. I hate you. That's all he has to do. So great. Amazing. What a way to run a country. What a way to envision your national identity. It completely explodes the minute someone tells a lie. Oh, gee, I wish we could have thought of that one. Man, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing. And people are still telling me, no, this is what America's founded on, man. You got to believe in this. You got to believe in this idea that we cooked up like maybe 100 years ago at most. Like, you got to buy all the progressive propaganda. This is what America was all about. So guys like Gene Wu could come in here and tell you that he hates you and you're stupid and you're racist and he's going to band together with all the other minorities and take over the country. That's just the American dream, baby. That's the proposition. And if you don't believe that, you're just not an American. Like, this is what we have to put up with. It's insane. It's insane. Now, this guy goes on television and says explicitly, what guys like me and many others have been called woke right for telling you. Okay? And that's ultimately why I love the video, because it's just mask off. People who are lying to you and saying, oh, if you notice that, like, actually large amounts of immigrants are coming in with ethnic cabals that want to take over the country because they hate white people, well, you're woke. You're woke. You're just like the woke left. You want to play identity politics, don't you? No, man, I just got two eyes. I've got ears. I can hear what they say. I know what they're doing. It's obvious. But no, that's not it. It's all Marxism. It's all Marxism or Islam, right? Like, that's the new. And again, I've said this many times. I want a Muslim ban. Like, I think Islam is stupid. I don't want it in my country. It doesn't belong here. But, like, I'm sorry, the idea that there's, the Muslim-Islam alliance is taking over the country. They're our new enemy, and that's why we need a new Cold War and new neocons, and we've got to invade everybody, and we need to, because we've got an alliance between the Marxists and the Islamists. No, garbage, dumb, I'm sorry. And guys who go out there and tell you everything about leftism it's all Marxism. It's not anti-white hatred. It's not that they hate white people. It's not a vicious ethnic attack. It's Marxism. No, it's all lies. It's all garbage. You know why? Because you didn't hear a single bit of Marxism in that statement. That guy wasn't talking about the labor theory of value. He wasn't talking about seizing the means of production. He doesn't give a crap about the socialist revolution. No, don't get me wrong. I'm sure the guy probably has Marxist redistributionist politics. Like, I'm sure there's some Marxism in there. I'm sure that most of the time, he dresses up his anti-white hatred in the garb of political ideology. Oh, I don't hate white people. I'm just Marxist. We're not redistributing money from white people to minorities to buy their votes. We believe in the socialist struggle. Whatever. Like, I'm sure he says that, right? But It's naked and obvious here. It is naked and obvious. Hey, we can take over America from white people if we just band together with all the other minorities. If we recognize that all the other immigrants, we outnumber the white people now, we can band together and take over the country. If we just realize that we all have the same oppressor, now there's your little Marxism. There you go. It's oppressor, oppressed. But if we recognize we all have the same enemy, white people in America, we can get together and take over. The only reason we haven't gotten together and won yet is because we're busy fighting each other. And once we get rid of that, once we ban our little ethnic coalition together and stop fighting each other, we can take America away from all those white people. He's just saying it out loud. There's no hesitation. There's no shame. There is zero reason to ultimately pretend like he's just going to say the plan. Because there's enough people in the US now who aren't heritage Americans. And if we just get them all together, we can take over and there's nothing you can do. Now, again, this is rhetoric that was considered like an alt-right conspiracy theory 5 years ago. Like if you went around saying that this was, their plan and, that this was what was going on and that, the whole time and this is the motivation, you'd be treated as some kind of insane, alt-right crazy person, right? Except no, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Like that was exactly the plan the whole time. And we told you, and we were called racist, and we were called woke, and we were called all of these names by idiots because they didn't want to address the problem. Sorry, the problem here is not Marxism. Yes, they use it as an ideological cudgel. They use the rhetoric. But what this guy's talking about is a race war. He wants a race war. And he wants it against white people. And he's saying so. If we can get all the non-white people together, we can take the country over from the white people. That's what he's saying. And so now we have to have these conversations. I'm sorry. When this is being announced, we have to have these conversations. We can't play pretend anymore. We can't play we don't know. We didn't see it coming. Oh boy, if we just put our head in the sand a little longer, that'll solve the problem. The man is announcing openly, yes, our plan is to bind all the non-white people together because now we're the majority and we're going to take over the country from the white people who are oppressing us. Like, not hiding the ball. So now we have to talk about things that matter. I'm sorry. And it's going to offend some people, and more people are going to call me racist or woke or whatever. And I don't care because we have to have this discussion. And I love my country more than I'm worried about mean names. So we need to talk about demographic security. We need to talk about the fact that ethnic percentages matter. That where immigrants come from, if they come from at all, anywhere, like if we're even having immigration, which I think we should have a moratorium on. But sorry, like you have to notice that when guys like this, who are born in China, I'm pretty sure, when guys like this announce that he is building purposely a non-white coalition to take over the country from white people, like we have to start noticing where people come from. We have to notice that they're not loyal to the country, that they love their former country and people with their skin color or even just other skin colors that aren't white more than they love the country. That their goal to come into the country was to take it over. And that allowing people like this, especially foreign-born people, to come in and say, oh, I'm going to run for office and I'm going to make your laws, is insane. It's insane. We need generational citizenship. We need a ban on anyone who was born in a foreign country from serving in any position in the United States. We have it for president. You have to be born a U.S. citizen to be president. We need it for everything. This guy's a Texas state representative. That's the good news. Like, he's not, in Congress or the Senate of the United States. But that doesn't mean he's not echoing a position that a lot of people who are in those positions hold. Like, he has the same idea they have. He's just dumb enough to say it out loud to a camera. But it's the same plan. It's the same plan. And guess what? You could barely get Republicans to denounce this. Thank you, by the way. I believe Chip Roy and Mike Lee, like there were a few, and good job, right? Good for you. Ted Cruz tried to denounce it, but he said, this is bigotry. Of what kind, Ted? What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? What kind of bigotry do we have here? So we have an obvious situation where this guy is an anti-white racist. He's an anti-white bigot. And barely can get a handful of Republicans to denounce the guy. Democrats don't care. They just don't care. Like, they're not gonna make a news cycle about this. This isn't gonna be on MSNBC. It's not gonna be, 14 days on CNN. Have you denounced Gene Wu? Have you denounced the anti-white bias, the bigotry of Gene Wu? Is the Texas legislature going to strip this guy of his committee assignments, his seat? Do they have any spine at all? Can they even pretend to care that this guy hates white people and is obviously fomenting a actual race war? Like, I'm not putting words in his mouth here. He says specifically, I want all the other races to get together against white people. Like, that's his plan. And like, unapologetically, he's like, yes, obviously that's what we're doing. Of course that's what we're doing. Like, it's so obvious, I'll just announce it. What, you couldn't see it before? It's incredible that you can't seem to find more than a handful of Republicans to make a big deal about this, and of course, like, no Democrats. But they're all losing their minds over Trump reposting a video someone else edited that wasn't even racist. Like, they don't care about racism, and neither should you. The charge should be nothing to you. Oh, you're a racist. Whatever. I don't care. Because this is what racism really looks like. Like, this is what actual racism, the term is supposed to look like. But I don't even bother using the term at this point, because racism doesn't mean anything. If I want to point out, I try to use anti-white bigotry when it's against white people, because racism is just an amorphous thing that only matters when Democrats apply it. Republicans can't cancel someone for being racist, obviously. Like, this guy is just saying his plan to team up against white people, and he doesn't care. Because what are you going to do? Call him a racist? It doesn't mean anything to him. The charge doesn't mean anything coming from you. You're not going to cancel him. It has no cultural power. The media is not going to cover it. They're not going to destroy his life the way they would anyone else. They will spend an entire news cycle or a couple news cycles, couple days on Donald Trump with a video, but nothing about this. So we have to have the discussion. Like, people will say, oh, why are you worried about white people becoming a minority in the United States? It's fine. We treat minorities well. Actually, you know why we treat minorities well? Because Americans made up America. Because that's how we treat minorities. That's not how people from other countries treat minorities. And when you import minorities from other countries into your country and they become the majority, guess what? They start talking like Gene Wu. Because he doesn't have your Western Christian understanding of how to treat a minority. He treats a minority the way the Chinese treat a minority. He puts them in jail. Right? He doesn't care. He crushes them. He bans them from political authority. Doesn't matter. They're not Chinese. So if you become a minority in a country that only treated minorities well because they were a bunch of Anglo-Christians who had that belief system, well, guess what? You don't get that anymore. You get more of a third world understanding of how to treat a minority, which is kill them, oppress them, take their stuff, put them in jail, strip them of their rights. Because whatever, they're not like us. That's it. That's all he's got, right? So yeah, I guess I don't know how videos like this can circulate and not be the most important thing anyone has seen. Can't be like what is on everyone's lips. This guy is Radio Rwandoing. Like he's like, we gotta take out the whites. That's what he is saying. Like, we gotta crush them, we need to band together and get rid of them. And that's the entire Democratic Party, by the way. Leftism, progressivism in the United States, but generally around the world, but especially in the United States, it's not an ideology, man. Like, it's not about their socialism or their communism or whatever. It's not about Marx. It's not about Engels. It's not about Trotsky even. It's not about Lenin or Stalin. It's about hating white people. That's what the Democratic Party exists to do. It's the party of non-whites with the explicit purpose of hurting white people, taking their stuff, making them a minority, making the putting them in a closet, making them marginalized. Like, that's the whole purpose of the Democratic Party. How do you think you get like the kids people in the same party with radical Islamists? How do you get them to occupy the same space? How do you get blacks and Asians together, even though, like, for instance, the Stop Asian Hate movement had to be shut down because they figured out that it was mainly black people beating up Asians? Like, how do you get two groups that are otherwise constantly doing violence to each other? Well, really one group doing violence to the other. How do you get those two groups together and get them to work together in the same political coalition? You just make sure they hate white people enough. That's it. That's the glue that holds them together. It's not that Asian people are especially communistic. It's not that black people are especially socialist. It's that if you tell them their enemy is a white person, they'll work together and ignore their differences. It's not that radical Islamists love trans kids. And it's not that people who are trans, just can't wait to have a neighbor who believes in Sharia law. It's that if you tell them both that getting rid of white Christian Americans is the goal, they'll band together. That's it. That's the glue. It's just anti-white politics. It's just an anti-white coalition. The ideology is secondary. They hate you first, and then they find an ideological reason to band together. That's the order of operations. So when a guy like this announces that that's the plan, like plain and simple, with no ideological obfuscation, it's time to believe him and to act accordingly. We have to shut immigration down. We need to make it so that only natural-born Americans can run for office. And we need 3-generation citizenship if anyone is to immigrate. Immigration moratorium, and once it's over, if you want to become an American, you can't. Neither can your child, but your grandchild can be an American. They could even run for office. But I need to see you living in this country for years, generations, being successful, not being on the public dole. Why is a single immigrant eligible for any kind of welfare, any kind of assistance? They shouldn't be. They're not supposed to be a financial burden. That's actually part of the screening process. But we just keep pushing this idea that anyone can come in, raise their hand, be a propositional American. No. Paperwork Americans like Gene Wu will destroy this country. And he explicitly explains that's the point. That's the point. That's why he's here. To get rid of white Americans. Like, he just says it. We're all going to band together and we're going to take over the country. There's more of us now than there are of them. They were too stupid and let us in. And in case you think he's the first guy to make this claim, remember this video? I think we talked about it, did a show on it previously, but I'm going to play it again just because it drives the point home. This is Wajat Ali or something like that, however you pronounce his name. He's from the UK in theory, but he's actually from, I think, India or Pakistan, and came to the United States, immediately started writing for, I believe, the New York Times, and announced stuff like this.
You have lost. You lost. The mistake that you made is you let us in the first place. See, that's the thing with brown people. I'm going to say this as a brown person. There's a lot of us, like a lot. There's like 1.2 billion in India. There's more than 200 million in Pakistan. There's like 170 million in Bangladesh. Those are just the people there. I'm even talking about the folks who are expats or immigrants. There's a bunch of us, and we breed. We're a breeding people. And the problem is you let us in 1965. There were a few of us beforehand, but once you let one of us in, you know what happens with brown folks? Our grandmother comes, our grandfather comes, our uncle comes, our aunt comes, our cousin comes, our second cousin comes, our third cousin comes. Then we have kids, a bunch of kids. And then guess what? Some white women, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them.
So again, just stating out loud, yeah, we're here to take over the country from you. There's a lot of us. And once you let us in, we'll just make more of us or we'll bring our family over. And the whole point is to make you irrelevant, to take the country from you. That's why we're here. Now, I'm sure he'd say it's a joke or it's in jest, it's sarcastic. No, it's not. Nope, that's just a cover for him doing what he actually wants to do, saying what he really says, saying what he actually believes. How many times do we need this explained to us directly? How many times do we need the left to tell you verbatim exactly what they plan to do before we believe that's actually what they're doing? How many times can a guy like James Lindsay or like these guys, Constant Kiss, how many times could these guys run around and call people woke for pointing out the exact plan that is being announced by the left without hesitation? I don't know, man. I'm so fed up with this. I'm so tired of having to argue with people about the obvious, the thing that is literally being smacked in your face on a regular basis. We've got to shut this down. We have to deport them all. They all have to go home. I don't just need the criminal aliens. They're all criminals that came here illegally, and even the legal immigrants. Gene Wu's a legal immigrant. This guy's a legal immigrant. I don't want him in my country. He's not an American. And neither is Gene Wu. I don't care what kind of paperwork they have. Send them home immediately. At the very least, they lied when they came here. They were malicious. They were liars. They were subversive. We don't need them here. Send them home. I do not understand how anyone can oppose this plan at this point. They all need to go back. Sorry. Every illegal needs to go back. Many of the legals need to go back. Anyone talking like this absolutely has to go back. And we need a moratorium. We have to stop importing people. We have to. On top of that, if we do ever open up immigration again, we get to choose from what countries. And I don't want to hear about it. We need to be picky about who comes in. And even if they do come in from countries we want, we have to tell them 3 generations before you're an American. People ask me all the time, okay, well, Auron, what do we do? What do we do? Where are your solutions? Here are my solutions. I'm laying them out. I'm being explicit. I'm not hiding the ball. This is what has to happen. We have to fix this. All right. I'm sorry to do this to you, but it is the Super Bowl and it is news. Now, ultimately, again, I would probably have skipped this, but it's so tied to everything we're talking about today that I think we have to. I'm frankly tired of this being a battlefield. Like at this point, it feels like, I'm lucky I don't have this, right? Like my family is pretty much all on the same page. Patriots, Americans, lovers of, our history. There's not a lot of arguing over politics at my Thanksgiving table, right? But I do know this is a thing that happens quite a bit. And, eventually, once the rift gets large enough, Thanksgiving, Christmas, these family holidays, they almost feel like they exist only to become battlefields, only to become political soccer balls, right? The original meaning of the people coming together kind of goes away. And it really just becomes, okay, who's going to debate what? who's going to call who a racist or a liberal or whatever, a communist. Like, that feels like just like the on the pins, type of walking on eggshells conversation that you go into in every one of these events. And the Super Bowl is starting to feel the same way. America's just a dysfunctional family, and so every time we get together for something, it's no longer about the thing. It's no longer about Christmas. It's no longer about Thanksgiving. It's no longer about Jesus or the turkey or the pilgrims. It's about what political arguments we can get into. Where's the drama going to be? And same thing with the Super Bowl. It's just become this event. Okay, we all get together for the Super Bowl and let's see which side can, be more weird or crazy or extreme or political about it, right? Like that. Who won the Super Bowl in the same way that you have like who won the divorce or who, something like that, right? And so it just becomes more and more frustrating to discuss it. Now, a lot of people on the right like to counter signal sports and be like, the sports ball, you're wasting your life. It's the sports ball. Now, look, I think that there is an unhealthy obsession with sports that will distract you from what is going on in life. Will, give you your breads and your circuses, right? I think that's a problem. So I'm with you 100% on that. People shouldn't be watching sports all the time instead of doing real things in actual life, having real communities, having families, achieving things, building virtue. I'm with you 100%. That said, watching sports is probably the most reliable human pastime across a lot of civilizations, right? Whether it's the Colosseum in Rome, it's the Olympics in Greece, it's the it's the chariot races in Byzantium. Like ultimately, this is a classic pastime. Now, in those examples, especially the Roman and the Byzantine one, we can look at ways in which sports were unhealthy. Okay, like obviously the breads and the circuses are what distracted people. The games and the feasts what distracted people from Rome going bad. Byzantines literally had to like fight wars over like riots that occurred after sporting events. So like unhealthy sports watching is a problem in many cultures throughout history too. But like I'm not going to pretend like it's not normal for human beings, especially men, to watch sports. So I push back against the sports ball thing because I think that's in some ways it kind of feels like a theater kid being like, oh well, I don't do sports. I'm too intelligent for sports. I would never bring myself down to your level. Like I get it, man. You couldn't throw a pass in high school. I get it. It's okay. I was a nerd too. I understand. But like eventually I grew up and I started doing some sports and I enjoyed them and turns out it's actually fine. The doing of the sports is actually much better. It's the fact that you don't watch them at all or you do watch them but you've never played them like that. That's the problem. Like that where it's a completely surrogate activity. But ultimately, I do think there's a little nerd crying from his locker thing when people get too on the sports ball metaphor. I've watched sports. I've enjoyed watching sports. I've never been obsessed with sports. Honestly, it would be strange for me to watch 2 sporting events in a week. I usually don't even watch one a week. Usually I watch 0, but like I don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to watch football or baseball just because it's sports. That said, they have been making, especially the NFL, fake and gay for a long time, right? Like the gay race communism stuff has been in the NFL for quite a while. It's pushed the social justice stuff. It's pushed the Black Lives Matter stuff. And that has made me want to turn it off. And I have. Like, I really don't watch very much like even though I watched very little beforehand, now I don't watch very much at all. I'll watch a game every once in a while. And even then, I've just turned off games because, I started watching this again, but there's a black national anthem or there's, some anti-white thing. And I'm just not going to put up with it. You're crapping on my country. I'm going to turn it off. So I've had that experience. But we do have to talk about the Super Bowl because it, again, weaves in to this like shameless anti-white display that we've seen from the Democrats and the politicians here. So I apologize in advance for playing you Bad Bunny. Now, I have never in my life heard a Bad Bunny song, or at least I should say I've never knowingly heard one. I'm sure there's, if he's popular, maybe it's been playing while when I walk by something or I'm in a store. But I had never heard of this guy. I never heard a single bit of his music. I had no clue who he was, what he looked like, any of it. But apparently he's popular, I guess. It seems awful. The music is terrible, from what I heard. But they put him in the halftime show to tell America that they hate us. So, I totally respect you if you just don't watch the NFL or football. I get it. I'm pretty much with you at that point. But this was a disaster on pretty much every level, I think, for the NFL. But let's go ahead and play a clip from the performance, I guess we'd call it.
Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Perú, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, México, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, las Antillas, United States, Canadá, and my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico.
So, the music was terrible. The show was terrible. And at the end, he brings in all the flags from the Western Hemisphere. And he names every country in the Western Hemisphere because we're all American in this sense. That's the implication. We're all Americans because we're in the Americas, as in North and South America. He does the whole thing in Spanish, but speaks a little bit of English here. The rest of the set he did in Spanish. Obviously, I didn't torture you with that. You're welcome. I played the minimum amount I could to make the point. But ultimately, it's nothing but a bunch of other countries' flags surrounding the United States. Because, of course, they all belong here. That's what he believes. That's what the Democrats believe. This isn't a country for Americans like from the United States of America. This is just the domain of all people in the Western Hemisphere. Everyone's American. They're all American. They all belong here. They all have a stake in the United States. Because it's not your country, right? Like Gene Wu said, they plan to get together and take over from white people. That's the plan. And Bad Bunny's on board with that plan. He's celebrating that plan. He's got that plan visually represented. Now, the funny thing is, if you look at the stands, nobody is interested. Like I didn't pull the video because it would have taken too much time. But if you look at the stands around, you can see that like all of the people in the stands don't care. Like they're all bored. They don't really know what's going on. Most of them probably don't speak the language he's singing in or he's saying things in. They don't care. You can see that really there's just no interest. Now, previously, in a lot of these halftime shows, they would put audiences on the field and they would at least look interested in what's going on. I'm sure in previous halftime shows, not everybody was rocking out to every person on stage, but like there was a general interest. Prince shows up, you get excited. Like, you're screaming, you're waving your hands, you're clapping, you're singing along. Nobody knows what's going on here. Like nobody cares. They don't have a audience on the floor to like build fake interest. And the people in the stands aren't here for this. They're here for the Super Bowl. They don't care. And so there's this incredibly lifeless performance with a crowd that doesn't give a crap. They don't have anyone on the ground at least pretending to care, that they may be paid to care or shipped in to care. And so the whole thing is lifeless, dumb, and like just hateful. Like a lot of people pointed this out. But even so they set up like this little town, right? Like he's running through Puerto Rico or whatever. There's buildings in there. So he's like showing, what it looks like to run through these towns that he cares about. Ultimately like there's scenes from LA and like in those, like there's a thing that says EBT welcome, like food stamps welcome on the building. Like the detail they included in a barrio was that it accepted food stamps. Like they took the time to include that because that's how intrinsic it is to the immigrant community. Of course, we all live on food stamps. Of course, our stores have to take food stamps. Otherwise, we couldn't get food at the convenience store down the road. Like it's hilarious that they, we're proud Americans. we're such proud Americans that we can't even imagine living in this country without taking money from the actual Americans and having that be the only way that we can pay for our grocery bills. But of course, this was far from the only anti-white stuff on, in the Super Bowl. The commercials were even anti-white. Like even in the commercials, we got Radio Rwanda. So let's play one of the commercials here. This is from with like I believe a mortgage company, like someone who does like online mortgages.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
I know it's hard, sweetie.
Could you be
But you'll still see Dad.
I love that they threw a little divorce in there. So the black family moves together, right? Let's just say that's statistically inaccurate. But the black family, the good family, the moral family, they move together and intact. But the white family, they're the dad's not coming. You'll still worry, honey. You'll still see Dad. They're divorced. That's why they're moving, right?
It's a
Who is
neighborly
that?
day in this beauty wood. A neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine?
Dog barking at that minority. Barking at the minority family. Like that's, we got to get those tropes in there. Racist white people with their racist dog.
Stop.
Could you be
Big storm coming in.
I have
Oh, that white guy won't even look at that man of color. Won't even talk to him. These terrible racists. These terrible racists.
always wanted to have a neighbor just like you.
Where are you?
I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day.
And now we've bonded because the virtuous minorities have come in and saved the dog. They've solved the situation.
Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be
And they've gone out and they're cutting down the trees,
mine? Won't you
cutting the
be
branches,
my
helping out.
neighbor?
Americans could use a neighbor like you. So the entire commercial is, the divorced white people, they don't care, but the intact and virtuous minority family comes in and they need people like you because, they're just intolerant. They're racist. They've got dysfunctional lives. But one day, these like well put together, intact family minorities, they'll come in and teach these ugly, dumb white Americans how to live because America, they need neighbors like you. They need to learn from you how to be good people. But don't worry, there's more. We got more.
Who's there? Dude.
Did you see that? Should we tell him? So bad.
Oh, bro, look at him. Oh my gosh.
It's not funny.
Do not listen to that.
Thank you, man.
So, of course, this is a commercial that was created by the owner of the Patriots, Mr. Kraft, who is a Jewish man. And this Jewish, I'm pretty sure millionaire, probably billionaire, decided that it was a good idea to run this country, this to reduce anti-Semitism. He's going to reduce anti-Semitism in the United States with this commercial. Now, what message does he convey here? What are we saying? This poor Jewish boy walks through the school. He's easily bullied. He's a little weak. He's a little shy. And the big old mean white people put "Dirty Jew" on his backpack. Dirty Jew. Slap a sticker on his backpack saying that. Because, anti-Semites. White people are anti-Semites. But don't worry. Because this virtuous black kid comes in. And he's going to protect him from the evil white people. He's going to tell him, don't worry. Don't let them get to you.
I know how it feels.
Okay. Where to begin? So we're doing the blue square. Remember the black square from BLM? Remember how that brought the country together and definitely wasn't some kind of insane social media witch hunt that was put on by BLM? Well, now we have the blue scare, or the blue square. So we don't have the black square. Now we got the blue square. And don't worry, because this virtuous black man is standing up against the white people along with this Jewish guy because he understands what it's like to be oppressed. Just like a Jewish person, he understands that you have to fight back against the bad white people. Remember, we're reducing anti-Semitism here. That's the goal. This is what a Jewish billionaire believes and what he thinks will reduce anti-Semitism. So, maybe you are not familiar. Maybe this isn't common knowledge. I think it's reasonably common knowledge, but just in case, Black people and Jewish people have not always gotten along. In fact, Al Sharpton is famous for like leading riots against Black Americans, against Jewish Americans, saying certain choice words about Jewish Americans. There has been a lot of tension between Blacks and Jews, often because Blacks believe, in many cases, that Jewish representatives have come in and stolen their movements or their neighborhoods. That ultimately they are not genuine. Many progressive Jewish leaders have used the idea of civil rights and Black struggles to advance their own interests over those of Black Americans. And in many cases, there's direct Black on Jewish violence. Not so much the other direction. But these are not groups that always get along or like each other. But when it's time to make a commercial about opposing anti-Semitism, Kraft thought that the best thing he could do was, show that Blacks are, going to have solidarity with Jews because ultimately they both recognize the evils of white people. This is the plan to reduce anti-Semitism. Again, just to remind you, that's the purpose here.
Nah. They're not worth it, bro.
Yeah, you're right. I was tripping.
What's your name?
So the tiny Jewish kid is gonna charge in there now that he has the tall Black guy backing him up, I guess, and fight all those white kids. How does this even begin to cross your mind? How can you even start to think that this is a good idea? I don't know, man. Just absolutely wild. Anyway, I guess the theme here being, it's not useful to pretend this isn't happening. It's not useful to pretend that this isn't the underlying message of all this stuff. Whether it's Democrat politicians just openly announcing their plan to team minorities up against whites, or it's immigrant journalists talking about how brown people are going to take over the country and there's nothing you can do about it, trying to demoralize them. Whether it's taking America's probably largest shared cultural event and turning it into an anti-white screed, about invasion. I mean, these guys are walking around with foreign flags, singing in a foreign language. It's conquest. They're celebrating a conquest. That's the idea. Or it's the commercials talking about how virtuous minorities are and how evil white people are and how they need minorities to move to their neighborhood to teach them how to be good people. Or whether it's a Jewish billionaire talking about how ultimately the way to reduce anti-Semitism is to insult white people and show that only Black people will really be your allies against anti-Semitism. It's insane. It's insane. And this has just been the weekend. This is just the weekend. Okay, this is just Friday through Sunday on American culture, American television. This stuff happens all the time. All the time. I didn't have to reach back into 5 years ago, do the thing the left does where it's oh man, a Black guy was lynched in 1847. That means that America today is just as racist. No, I can literally just pull all these examples from the weekend. And this is just constant. It's Radio Rwanda. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Like these people are calling, they're going to call for violence. Their politicians are already calling for it. Their media figures are already calling for it. They're constantly playing these divisive cultural events in an attempt to drive hatred of white people. You have politicians calling for a multi-ethnic coalition against white people in the United States. Like, it's got to stop. This is only going to get worse. This is only going to get worse. And it's going to end in violence. It has to end in violence if it's not stopped now. And the way to stop it is immigration moratorium. You have to reduce the level of ethnic conflict in the United States. And the only way to do that is to stop importing people from other parts of the country that don't share the world, that don't share our values, don't share our understanding, our history, our culture, our way of life. We have to stop this. We are committing suicide. This is insane. And we have to be able to talk about it. We have to stop yelling and calling people woke right for noticing what's happening at the Super Bowl. I'll say this. I think even James Lindsay denounced this as something that would create more anti-Semitism. So that's how bad it is. Like, that's how bad it is. That even he can recognize how insane this is. All right, guys, let's head over to the comments. We've got plenty questions from the people today, so let's move over there. Let's see here. This. All right, Manayud says, in the dying heat of the day, among the buzzing of the flies, the radio Rwandan continues to play its homicidal tune. Can you hear it yet, folks? I wanted to cue that up with the Lion King the Lion Sleeps Tonight because it sounds a little bit like that. But yeah, no, obviously Radio Rwanda playing all the time with these people. He also says, in the coming world, I think the wars of race, ethnicity, and culture are going to be replaced with old wars of ideology, dynasty, and empire. I see that coming, and it's not a pleasant sight. Pat Buchanan, and of course, Pat was largely right. This is what Lee Kuan Yew said about Singapore. Right, like one of the problems with democracy is people vote their race and their religion. That's what they vote. It's not about principles. It's not about ideologies. When you have that level of diversity and you're handing political power over to the people, they vote for people that look like them and worship like them. That's it. That's the end of it. You don't have to like that, but that's the reality. So your options are you remove the democratic process, or you be a little more discerning about what groups you're letting into your country. But those really are your only options. Let's see. The guy whose name I can never hope to pronounce. I know it got corrected about once, but I just always forget how to properly pronounce that. He says, it took 2 world wars to pretty much assimilate the Germans. How can we assimilate any group further afield than them without a state-enforced race mixing or general authoritarianism? I have no clue. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I've used the same example. People will point to the Irish or the Italians or the Germans as, we were able to assimilate them. It was just fine. No, like we barely assimilated those people. And they were European. They at least were like close to the countries we originally came from. And we could barely assimilate those people. How are we going to assimilate everyone? Like that should not be seen as we managed to assimilate those people, so therefore we can assimilate anyone. No, that should be seen as the limits of our ability. That was already a gargantuan task. As you say here, it took us several world wars to really, truly assimilate that population. So no, it's not like we can barely do that. We cannot just bring anyone in here. You can't bring people from Haiti or Senegal and expect, or, China and expect them to assimilate exactly the same way. Nixon says, why do conservative boomers love immigrants? Because they think that makes them not racist. It really is just that simple. Like their family has been calling them racist at Thanksgiving forever, and they want to be able to say, look, I support minorities. See, it's great. I support immigrants. It's fine. That really is the long and the short of it. They just don't want to be called racist. It also doesn't hurt that it drives down, the cost of their lawn care and their house cleaning and all that stuff. But ultimately, that really is the whole ball game. We just have to get people to stop being worried about the term racist. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Once we take away its cultural power, a lot of this fades. Manny says, I find it crazy that people still can't wrap their heads around the fact that ideology is just window dressing for people's wants. How many times does a mask need to fall, folks? Yeah, again, I've been trying to push this. This has been like a huge thing that I've been trying to communicate to people, that ideology is not organic, that it does not properly communicate the actual motivations of people. And if you look at the way they live, then you will see a better representation, as opposed to just trying to blame it all on abstract ideology. Nixon says, immigrants used to be grateful. Now they seem entitled and resentful. What changed? It's due to advantage of my white oppression mythology. I think that's what he's trying to say there. Cynical. So I think there's a couple things. One, I think what people don't realize is that immigration tends to be, how do we say this? Selection. It has a selection early on, right? Like most immigrants coming here tend to be either people who wanted more and couldn't get it in their home country, or they have like an ability. They're very smart, or they're very capable, and so they like want to go somewhere where they can truly reap the advantages of that. So early on, America was full of a lot of people who came here for that reason. And in that way, they created like kind of a cognitive beachhead, right? Like they're like, these are the smartest people, or the hardest working people, or the most adventurous people. And, they came over and they built something for themselves. There's a lot of, guys who were doctors in their home country, and they had to come here and they couldn't get a doctor's license. And so they have to work their way up. And, these are the kind of people who are very capable from the beginning. It is also true that earlier, waves of immigration came without a civilization necessarily being here. Like our first people here were not immigrants, they were settlers. They were here to carve out a nation. And even as more immigrants came, in many cases, they're helping to settle the West, or, they weren't getting a bunch of handouts, they weren't getting food stamps and college assistance and home loans. They were coming just to build something. They didn't expect ultimately something to be handed to them. Now, maybe they still shouldn't have come. Maybe we should have been so open with the immigration. The point being, though, if you're wondering why they tend to be more grateful, it's because they were self-selecting for people who would be grateful, because they didn't need to come here and just like take your stuff. They were coming here because they could carve out a life for themselves. Now you're just getting the leftovers. You're getting all the people who couldn't do that, who stayed in their home countries originally because they couldn't carve out a piece of America, because they couldn't contribute, because they couldn't survive without the handouts. And they're only coming now because they need those things, because they've ran their own countries into the ground. So we're not getting the best of immigrants anymore. We're getting the worst, the leftovers. All the good ones left already. All the good ones are already here. There's nothing but failure behind them. And that's why I think you're seeing a lot of ungrateful people flowing into the country. Sean Weiland says, the managerial class sees mass importation as induced demand for consumer goods. Whites already bought their appliances and GDP must go up. Yep, that's absolutely true. In a lot of ways, immigrants are just kind of like biological quantitative easing, right? Like they kind of come in, they soak up with extra money, they buy extra products, they get the extra economic activity going in ways that like the current population is not going to do. Cherry Coke Nixon says, speaking of sports ball, I like watching NFL, MLB, etc. But what's with all the sports-centered accounts on X being shitlib? Seems like an odd combo. I can't really speak to that because I don't really pay attention to sports enough to like go after and look for sports commentary. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, a lot of them are very liberal. I mean, you've got guys like Jason Whitlock who are on the Blaze. So if you want conservative sports commentary, that would definitely be the guy I'd go to. But yeah, I do think you're right that is generally kind of the default attitude, because it's just kind of the default attitude of people in media. I think that's really it. Nixon says, apologies for the Italian bad words last Friday. No problem. Nixon says, God bless Mos Eisley and Mordor in some kind of like Spanish texting. Very good. Very good. Jacob Zindel says, we cannot build our own high-end desktop PCs because of this AI slop. You will own nothing personal. Local computing power is unaffordable because GPUs and now RAM sticks are all being hoarded by data centers. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm so glad that I can't get a decent computer at a decent price, so that people can, absorb the boomer slop, AI slop. It really is. And just wait till your electrical bills are going up because of it, or your they're knocking down forests or classic buildings in your hometown to make room for one more data center in your area. Yeah, then you'll really appreciate the fact that we can make all this boomer slop. Manny Youth says, outside of aesthetic differences, what is the functional difference between mass immigration and colonization? Yeah, I mean that's true, of course, that they ultimately end up taking over, which, by the way, is how we ended up with places like Texas in the United States. We literally just had Americans colonize into Mexico until we had more Americans than they had Hispanics, and then we kind of just took it from them, right? Like, so even America has had this experience. Like, we have done this to people. Like, this is how a lot of settlers, end up taking over Indian territory, right? Like, you just kind of moved into the reservation land long enough until there's more Americans than anything else, and eventually they demand to become part of America, and all of a sudden the Indians had to get moved out, right? Like, we've done this. We should know how this works, right? Like, again, I ultimately don't blame people necessarily for engaging in this. I understand that this is just kind of how the world works, but because I understand how the world works, because I know we did it, I'm like, nope, maybe we don't allow ourselves to go down the same road that we've seen in any other situation. Enrico Palazzo says, bananas and rice is just as American as apple pie. It's just like bananas and rice. It's hard to explain, Yeah, at some point the idioms do break down when you're sharing cultures with people who are radically different. And then Thego says, who let them in? In is this friend enemy thing? Who let them? ? In is this a friend enemy thing? Okay, sorry. I was trying to parse that because of the decapitalization there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there are many groups that have thought at different points that more immigration would be advantageous to them. There have, sadly, we see this across, Catholic charities. There's evangelical charities, Lutheran charities, Jewish charities that have all done this. Democrats have done this. Republicans have done this. Unfortunately, there have been many, faiths and ethnicities and political groups that ultimately think that this is a winning strategy for them. This is, again, a huge problem with democracy, that it kind of opens itself up to this strategy. This is a problem even without democracy. Like, demographic transformation has happened to non-democracies as well. But obviously, in a democracy where votes, mass participation is the way to keep power, the incentive is always there. So huge problem across the board. And J6 2.0 says, our grandmother comes, our grandfather comes, our uncle and cousin comes, and then we breed. Yeah, we know. That's why your IQ is 75. I see what you did there. Yes, the cousin marriage, if you will, is not as is not as stigmatized in other cultures, especially ones like Pakistan. In fact, if you want to have some fun, look at the incest and intermarriage rates for Pakistanis, especially the cousin marriage rate, and just kind of absorb those stats and think about the implications. P. Brown says, love your show. Keep up the good work. Do you have a recommended book list anywhere? Well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. And yes, I do. So if you look at my channel, you'll find a playlist that says, like recommended books. And it is, every year, actually, I didn't do one this year. I kind of broke the tradition because I wasn't sure if people were still interested. So maybe I do need to keep it up because it looks like people are still interested. But every year on my channel until this year, I did my top books of the year. So if you want to just kind of look at some of the books I've been enjoying, what I think is important, why I think it's important, you can click on that playlist and get recommendations. All right, guys, thank you so much once again for coming by and watching. If it's your first time on this channel, you need to go ahead and click subscribe, click the bell and the notification, because YouTube really, really hates it when right-wing people are growing channels. And actually, speaking of growing channels, if you are someone who has watched this show casually, or maybe you're just listening to the podcast, because the podcast keeps growing quite a bit, but it does look like YouTube has been messing with my numbers. The subscriber count has slowed down quite a bit, despite having more or less normal view counts on videos and something. So if you want to do me a favor, and you haven't subscribed to the channel, take the time to do that. It really does help quite a bit. It helps increase the reach, pushes back against the YouTube censorship, that kind of thing. Very much appreciate it. And of course, if you do want to get these as podcasts, you need to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. When you do, leave a rating or review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. Thank you once again, everyone, for watching. And as always, I will talk to you next time.